Judith Cochrane. Mrs. Cochrane.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There are aspects of this bill which we support, but there are also considerable parts with which we have deep concerns. However, I rise to speak in support of the bill. I also agree with a lot of the points that Sinn Féin have raised in their amendment, but we don't think that this is the best mechanism to deal with them. The Alliance Party knows that the place to make significant changes to the bill was in Westminster, and while that leaves us in a difficult situation, we need to acknowledge that our duty now is to progress with the bill and make changes that are in our power during the consideration stage of the bill. Delaying the process is not the answer, and the costs of delay are considerable, including, as the Minister has already highlighted, the risk that those Northern Ireland residents who deliver social security services on a UK-wide basis could lose their jobs. Whilst I would have liked to have seen this bill come forward much sooner to allow us more time, I see no reason why we should delay the bill and why we can't seek to tackle the issues in Sinn Féin's amendment and continued negotiations with the UK Government over the coming weeks, as well as making amendments to the bill through the committee stage. While the social security system is devolved to the Assembly, it is in the interest of our constituents to follow parity with the rest of the UK. We do not have the tax base to sustain our own local system or to pay for deviations from what happens in the rest of the UK. Parity therefore works in our favour, in that it ensures a level of provision that we could not otherwise afford. Alliance does not believe it is feasible that we breach parity in terms of benefits and qualifying thresholds, but we can work to push administrative and operational matters to fit with local circumstances, and this is where our focus now needs to be. We should also be ensuring that the Executive are prioritising other factors that can mitigate against some of the changes, including progressing affordable childcare and creating jobs. Often when talking about our welfare system, there seems to be a myth that people are divided into two distinct groups, namely hard-working taxpayers and those who are on benefits. A person may, however, fall into either or even both of these categories at some point in their life. Hard-working taxpayers can get seriously ill or lose their job or their home, especially in the current economic climate, and therefore we need to ensure that we have a system that provides support when someone needs it most. It would seem that all parties are in agreement that we want to push the boundaries of parity as much as possible for our constituents, but we need to be realistic. It would be irresponsible for us as elected representatives to get people's hopes up that we can make vast changes to the bill's operation here, when the real place to debate and make significant changes to the bill was at Westminster. Indeed, my colleague Naomi Long MP consistently voted against the Government's proposals for welfare reform at every stage in Westminster, and supported a number of amendments from the House of Lords which aim to lessen the worst effects of the Act. No, I'm not going to, given some of the other comments that were made. She supported amendments which have extended contributory ESA to 24 months, exempted cancer patients from the new rules, and rejected government moves to stop young disabled people who have never worked from receiving contributory ESA. Unfortunately, however, these were defeated by the Government. She also objected to the Government's confusing proposals around cuts to child benefit and to a cap on benefits. She voted against the bill at its second and third readings in Parliament. There are countless provisions within the bill, and I want to focus on a few specifics where I think we could approach things differently in Northern Ireland, while still working within the realms of parity. A completely different IT system is out of the question, for example, but making more frequent or split payments of universal credit to those who want it should be possible. Choice is key, and we need to appreciate that not everyone is comfortable in budgeting on a monthly basis. Indeed, many who already work in retail or construction are often paid fortnightly. On the other hand, there are those who have been used to receiving a monthly salary, but who have then lost their job and who struggle to manage their budget when it comes in various payments and at different times, and it's not completely clear exactly what their total monthly income is. I therefore welcome the fact that the Minister is seeking confirmation that the IT system can meet this purpose so that choice can be offered. Another issue that I have previously spoken on is the under-occupation penalty. And while we will not be able to ignore the penalties, we instead need to recognise that there are not nearly enough one-bedroom properties in Northern Ireland to cope with demand. So we need to consider that the penalty is going to affect those who were allocated a property with more bedrooms than they required, often through no fault or choice of their own. Any social housing tenants that are deemed to be under-occupying their home by one bedroom stand to lose 14% of their housing benefit entitlement, with those under-occupied by 2 or more bedrooms losing 25% of their housing benefit. I understand that the Housing Executive and housing associations are trying to preempt these changes coming into force and have been taking steps to identify those tenants that will be effective. However, we need to ensure that everything that can be done is being done in order to prevent mass upheaval when the changes come in. We do not want to end up with more repossessions, more rent arrears, or more people presenting as homeless. And I welcome the comments from the Minister regarding the housing stock. And I would ask that he ensures that his department prioritises this review of all social housing stock and takes a strategic and holistic approach with regards to the construction of future housing. Of course, we in Northern Ireland also do have the added difficulty of having deeply segregated housing pockets, and often the options for people moving house become even more complex in comparison with Great Britain. And it will come as no surprise to other members of the House that I believe that shared housing could be an integral concept in the housing strategy and could help to alleviate some of the proposed changes within the Welfare Reform Bill. We should also be cognizant of the fact that applications for universal credit and PIP will predominantly need to be made online, and therefore the community and voluntary sector will have a more important role to play than ever. We must ensure that enough fully trained staff are placed within jobs and benefits offices across Northern Ireland to assist claimants filling in forms both in person and through helplines. I'm sure the Minister is well aware that by investing in the community and voluntary sector, we gain value for money in frontline advice services, which inevitably leads to financial savings for government. In order to curb the effects of the changes to our social security system, we should be investing in and using the advice sector to its full capacity. Lessons also need to be learnt from the staggering employment and support allowance appeal rates, with around 38% of appeals being overturned in the claimant's favour. The work capability assessment carried out in the UK by ATOS has caused significant concern, and we need to ensure that the personal independence payment medical assessments are better thought out and that medical evidence will take precedence when decisions are being made. Another issue of concern is that over 133,000 people in Northern Ireland currently have a direct payment of housing benefits set up with their landlord, which ensures that their accommodation is never in jeopardy and helps reduce the risk of personal debt. Not only does this system protect tenants, but it also gives financial security to social landlords, enabling them to secure private investment at highly competitive rates, thereby maximising their capacity to deliver much-needed affordable homes to the taxpayer. Where landlords receive direct payments, they are in turn able to keep the cost of rent down. And this is one feature that I would be extremely keen to retain, perhaps by having an opt-out scheme. In conclusion, Mr Speaker, welfare reform should not be about reducing spend year on year. It should be about creating a welfare system that protects and provides for those who need it most. This bill does not make for easy reading for any of us who deal with constituents on a daily basis who are in real need. However, our duty to them is to seek to make amendments through the committee stage in the coming weeks. I support the motion, but not the amendment.
Simon Hamilton.